Accident. Well, good morning again, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk with you with Geron. And today we're going to talk about identity technology and how identity technologies can help really create niche audiences for digital advertising and really extend those audiences and their reach out into the ad tech ecosystem to help advertisers really focus in on some of their very specific targeting. Versium, we're a data technology company. We operate our own proprietary identity platform, which sits on top of a vast volume of identity data that helps marketers, both B2B and B2C marketers, identify their best customers, identify their best targets, get insights to be able to do segmenting, and ultimately reach them through a multitude of marketing channels. And I'm excited to be here with Geron. We work together very closely, and they have a very powerful and specific data set in the commerce space. And I think with that, Geron, I'll let you talk about that since you're the expert in those categories.
Thanks a lot, Chris. Greatly appreciated. KDI, we're an omni-commerce media agency, and we actually leverage UPC SKU level purchase data within the essential retail markets to help enhance audience targeting, measurement, as well as insights within retail, payments, as well as traditional digital media campaigns.
So today, we're going to be talking about identity and how some of the things there, where you take some of the insights and data gleaned from the commerce platforms that Geron works with, mix it with identity data to really create focused niche audiences. We're also going to talk about both B2B and B2C digital audiences and niche audiences. And I'm sure we have some folks here on the call that are focusing on marketing to consumers, and some that may be focusing to market on to business decision makers. Maybe they're selling a B2B product. So we're gonna cover both of those throughout the session today. A couple of things we're gonna chat about is a little background on identity, how it's used, segmenting, creating custom creatives and targeting, how we can create digital segments from specifically purchased data that Geron and his team have access to in very unique ways. And then how we can extend those across all different digital platforms to really help marketers do some very specific targeting. Then we'll talk a little bit about some of the dilemmas when this targeting involves marketers who are focusing on business audiences. Maybe they're selling a marketing automation solution or a product to the marketing function within an organization, and what are some of the challenges faced within that ambition, and how we link consumer and business identity aspects to really greatly address some of those problems. So with that, we'll jump right in here. The global digital marketing software market has expanded tremendously. It's going to grow to over 84 billion in 2023. And really, a lot of that growth of all these different software solutions that are helping marketers in the digital realm, it's heavily driven by data and data technology solutions. 78% of marketers say that their customer engagement is data driven. And there's a lot of different data sources and data technologies that help drive that huge dollar that goes through these platforms. And a lot of that growth has been spurned through identity and identity technology. Really from the onset of the internet, really in the beginning, it was all about content advertising, where whatever the theme or the content on the website that was being displayed, that was where people wanted their ads to appear. And as the internet evolved and we started getting different gated entry points where you would deliver a login, for example, an email address or a phone number, or maybe if you're starting to ship products through commerce. And then as the mobile world took over, you have all the mobile devices accessing the internet. And so during this time, the identity graph really evolved as a means to enable targeting of consumers and specific consumers. And I use the word consumers because it was really about consumer login for the most part. We'll get to the impact on that when it comes to B2B marketing in a bit. But all of these identity elements could then be used to identify a person. And now you could market specifically to that person based upon this underlying contact data. So identity data is really contact data points, emails, addresses, phone numbers, mobile IDs, things that really identify a person. And as the internet evolved, these pools of identity data you could start segmenting and creating population of people with certain characteristics. When you think about digital ad targeting, these things can be used to create audiences, a population of emails or maids that have characteristics that a person wants to reach specifically, where you want to reach specifically these people. And Geron, I know in your world, really where the rubber meets the road, so to speak, in the commerce world and POS systems and the rest, you're gathering a lot of this data, even within your environment, that allows you to associate it to the insights you gain, right?
That is definitely correct. All privacy concentric, actually requested up front for loyalty and rewards card type data. And so with that there, we always know that we're dealing with the privacy issues up front.
Yeah, and I think identities privacy is a really important thing, which I'm glad you brought that up, is a lot of these contact points, when they're put into the digital platforms, can be encrypted, hashed, or otherwise obscured, so that while they're used to create a populace or an odd population or an audience that marketers want to reach, it's done, especially as much now with evolving privacy regulations, in a very privacy compliant way. But essentially, the more contact points you have about a person, the different digital touch points, their phone, their tablet, their PC, the different mobile devices, their physical address, these types of contact points, the more contact points you have on a person, the more effective you are to reach them, to put specific advertising in front of them. Essentially, more contacts equals increased digital reach. When you start thinking about activating in the digital realm, whether it's a first-party data set that you have in your marketing automation or CRM system, or whether it's a set of a marketing database that you use in direct mail, or maybe it's a set of data you get from POS systems. These different platforms, Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, the walled gardens, they accept this data, and they're all a little bit different. They accept emails, they accept physical address, they accept phone numbers, or you can even map them into the cookie pools in the broader internet outside of some of these larger platforms. And again, they take this data in an encrypted or hashed format, where you can take an email, encrypt it, and you get a unique identifier that can be mapped to that same email that is seen or that is resident within all these platforms, because they all have immense amounts of this identity data. Now, that's just a population of it's just how you use identity to reach a specific person. But how do you reach specific people with specific characteristics? And that's where the identity graph can be associated to offline or online characteristics, where you've got a pool of emails, addresses, mobile IDs, and you can match them to demographic profiles from existing demographics that exist within the marketing realm. But maybe you want to target people who own houses, or people who have a certain income profile, or that have certain assets, drive a particular car. Or in the B2B world, you want to put your advertising in front of people within the marketing function, within maybe the technology sector, or maybe you want to market to doctors or first responders in healthcare. These are all characteristics or insights about a person or population or household that can be used to construct an audience with similar characteristics. And identity technology allows the association of those insights to the specific identity characteristics or profile or contact points of the person. So now, when you upload that audience into a Google, you can say, I'm uploading an audience of people who have a specific characteristics, and now my ads are going to be highly targeted to folks with those particular characteristics that might be a high propensity to buy whatever product I might have. Whether I'm a consumer marketer trying to sell a product to my end consumer, or whether I'm a B2B marketer that's trying to sell a solution to the business and wants to reach a certain function within the organization. And that's really what powers very rich targeting, broadly speaking. Now, when we're going to shift over and talk about from a niche audience perspective, and we're going to use commerce platform, and particularly what Geron and his folks are doing to take that online as well. And with that, Geron, let me pass it over to you, and you can sort of dive into some of the great things you guys are doing there in the commerce world to build niche audiences.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Chris. For us here, KDI specializing within these essential retail markets, all the markets that got designated during the pandemic falls within this category. And so this enables the brands and the retailers, as well as demand and supply side platforms, to actually enhance their audience reach. overall being able to increase sales, and most of all, across the omni-channel, being able to reduce purchase friction across all available touch points. Because as we noticed during the pandemic there, purchase habits, whether it's online, offline, click and pick up, and other type of things there started happening. And you definitely want to make sure you're reducing that purchase friction across all those touch points. And for us here, what we call the essential retail markets that you see on the right, that's CPG products, consumer product goods, convenience, as well as grocery stores, food delivery services, alcohol products across beer, wine, and spirits, QSR, and fast casual restaurants, whether it's in-person order and pickup. Even CBD and hemp products fall within the category, as well as esports and casual gaming, particularly from the audience experience side there on the esports. On the left here, you'll see on the screen where we're looking at focusing in on the high purchase traffic industries. These are those industries there within, we detailed, where you really have high frequency retailers. You actually have multiple visits from the customers on a weekly basis, as well as a very short path to purchase. You're typically making up your mind, this is what you want to do, this is what you want to buy, and this is where you need to go to purchase it quickly. In addition, we look at being able to understand and identify the actual as well as the potential customers, because any business is always looking to, one, enhance their relations with current customers, but also looking for new customers as well. And then you want to be able to tackle that in the moment marketing, those people who could just be shopping, and you're actually able to, let's say, nudge them about additional products and brands that they might want to buy while they're in your location. Then additionally, we're able to enable brands to directly engage with their audiences here, particularly now that you're looking at more first-party data being incorporated across retail media networks. You also want to be able to enhance that customer journey. It's not just come in and buy and go. You want it to be a full customer journey, whether it's online or offline, and something that's really engaging to that customer and helps build up their loyalty to you. This all adds to the ability then to optimize that return on ad spend. And in addition, for the brand, for the retailer, grow overall sales.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting when we start thinking about the real specific purchase behavior that resides within this within this insights data. If you've got a population of folks that buy a particular product, maybe they buy steak, or maybe they like wine. Well, if you can start matching the insights of their purchased interest, they're a steak buyer or a wine drinker, with additional insights data like demographics that we're able to associate through that identity linkage, where we take the data that Geron, his team has that says, hey, here's a population of folks that purchase this particular product. Can we overlay additional insight to create micro segments within that population? Here's 1 million people that like wine. Well, you can market wine to them. But what if we can say within these 1 million people, or 10 million people, or even greater, which ones maybe are more of a luxury buyer? Maybe their demographic profile is a higher end purchaser. Maybe you want to promote the more expensive brand versus someone who maybe wants is more interested in an economic purchase. There's all sorts of additional demographic or insights data that can be matched up with this particular purchase behavior to really get granular or more niche in your segmenting, so that now your custom creatives, when you do activate these audiences in the digital ecosystem, can be highly tuned to the characteristics of who they purchase. And that's really where matching some of the additional third-party data enrichment via identity mapping to the, where the rubber meets the road on purchase behavior data can be tremendously powerful. When we talk about these niche audiences, particularly, let's use an example of someone who is, well, maybe they're a vegetarian, and within the vegetarian realm, we've identified purchases that are associated with the shopping cart of types of products that are with that, switching over to a different characteristics. Well, how do you reach this niche segment of folks that have these characteristics? Well, within the purchase or loyalty environment, you might have a single email, you might have a mobile ID, and that mobile ID is mapped to a purchase activity. And you can take now that offline purchase behavior, or for that matter, online. And again, not just match it to demographics, as I just noted, but match it to additional contact points through identity mapping, where we take one mobile ID or a HEM, a hashed email, and we find many additional emails, addresses, phone numbers, mobile IDs, all for that same individual person or household. And now you've got a lot more contact points associated with that niche audience. Hence, as we said earlier, more contact points, more reach. What more reach means is more ad impressions. You can reach these people across the full spectrum of where they're engaging digitally and put those ads that are most relevant based upon their purchase characteristics and interest, which ultimately drives greater brand engagement and effectivity of your marketing ROI. Anything else on that one, Geron, just to kind of put a bow on some of your perspectives there in terms of working with agencies and the benefits of some of this identity mapping as it relates to niche segments and some of the things you're experiencing, particularly with some particular maybe niche audiences that have been effective for you guys?
Yes, indeed, here, particularly around measurement. That's always been one of the bigger problems within digital advertising, as well as advertising overall, being able to measure the return on ad spend as well as attribution. Did the campaign actually correspond there to an increase in sales of that product? And by being able to match down to the granular level with the UPC SKU level data, as well as to the consumer personal data there that we have, we're actually able to do that. And we help across the board there, whether it's retail media, payment media, or digital media campaigns here, that ability to be able to provide that type of measurement, implement that, as well as insights of the characteristics there that go along with those individuals. As you kind of alluded to there earlier, we like to know who's the carnivore, who's the vegetarian, and who's the vegan. You don't want to send a vegan a steak ad. You're going to mess up your social media for the next 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think when we talk about some of the great effectiveness of digital and niche targeting using all this identity data and extending the reach, there are some problems, especially when we think of it from a B2B marketer's perspective. We talked about how emails, addresses, phone numbers can be used for targeting. And that's because Facebook, the platform of environments Google owns, those impressions, again, going back to the login screen, those impressions are generally associated to people, and they know who those people are through the whole vast volume of email, address, phone numbers, and this identity data that sits within these platforms, so that when a company that wants to target that vegan diet person uploads a list of these hashed emails, maids, and the rest, those platforms find those specific people that the advertiser uploaded, and now the digital ads appear just in front of those types of folks. And it's really, really a powerful thing. However, the entire ecosystem was really built around consumer traffic. So it's mostly consumer identity data. And so the B2B marketer has a real challenge. So if you're trying to reach not Joe consumer who likes wine or steak or what have you, you want to reach, Joe business person who works in the marketing department and might be a decision maker to purchase a particular software. Well, how do you do that in a consumer focused advertising world? And it's really a challenge. And not only for the B2B marketer, but there's a lot of B2C marketers that want to target people with certain career profiles. We once worked with Indian Motorcycles, and they wanted to reach VPs and higher within the technology sector because they had a higher propensity, and they wanted to market to purchase their product, which was motorcycles. So they wanted to spend some substantial dollars reaching those folks, but it's very difficult to do it because if you've got a list of those business people, how do you find them in a consumer focused world? We're going to get into that now because there's some pretty interesting challenges that the B2B marketer faces. Now, combine that with the current kind of work from home environment. I think, Geron, you might be working from home. I chose to come in the office today, but I normally am working from my home office. And so there's a lot of not transient, but a lot of people are moving to different places or working from different spots. And it used to be that you could target business people at a certain company through things like geofencing, where you use the lat long data and you say, all right, we want to market everyone around this address because they must work at Microsoft. Or maybe we want to market to a bunch of people that sit behind a particular IP address because you can get data on what companies use which IPs. The only problem is, number one, you can't target by job function. You can only, it's very specific to just a company. And you can't get granular in your, hey, I want to market to the marketing department. And now with the COVID environment, people working from home, that just doesn't work. So it's reaching decision makers in today's world, you really have to try and reach them across all digital touch points. And finding the business decision maker on Facebook, within the Google environments, on LinkedIn, or maybe on Twitter, or Instagram. There's all of these different digital environments where people engage. And if you can identify who the business profile is, you can also reach them across all these touch points. And so it's very important to do this. However, there's a huge problem because most of these platforms, again, map to consumer profiles. LinkedIn, while it's a B2B networking social media site, 75% of those profiles are actually mapped to the person's personal email address. In Facebook, it's even worse. So if you've got a list of 400,000 marketing decision makers that you as a B2B marketer want to promote your products to, and while all of these platforms allow you to upload that list of emails, address, and phone numbers in a hashed privacy way, they won't find those people because they cannot map those business emails to their profiles. And that really yields very low, what we call match rates, or ability to find the impressions and spend your media budget reaching the exact people you want. And that really is a fundamentally huge problem for B2B marketers that gets in the way of them effectively using digital advertising. So there is a solution, and it comes back to the identity graph, or the identity technology we've been talking about. So the ability to associate all of these different contact points from different digital touch points to the same person or household. And we call that the consumer to business linkage, or the B2B2C identity graph, where we're not just associating a bunch of, we are associating a bunch of emails, but we're taking a list of business emails or business contact points that a person wants to reach, and we associate all kinds of additional identity contact points for that same set of people. So if you've got 1,000 business emails, or think you've got 100,000 or 1 million, a really powerful identity graphing solution, and there are a few in the market that are out there, can find literally 5,000 to 6,000 or 5 to 6 times the same volume of contact points for those same people. So that 1,000 business emails that you might have gotten from a, Dun & Bradstreet or a Zoom Info list purchase, and you want to synchronize digital advertising, if you get, 1,000 will give you 6,000 contact points for those same 1,000 people, additional emails, addresses, maids, and things of that nature. You can also assign additional insights. Maybe it's demographic data because you want to market to the business person differently based upon their profile, male versus female, and things of that nature, as well as the characteristics of their company, their tech stack, things like that. So you can segment this audience you've constructed. And the end result is really powerful. And so now you've got your niche focused B2B audience of marketing decision makers within SaaS industries that you want to reach. And this test really highlights the power of the identity graph within this environment. Test A is really just this list of 50,000 folks. We're going to do a test campaign and upload it into Google. And you'll notice that Google is only able to find 35% of those. And actually that's stronger than what we normally see. On the right side, after you take the same list of 50,000 business decision makers and you associate additional contact points through identity linkage, additional emails you see up top, the Yahoo emails, Gmail emails, versus map to their business email, physical address, cell phone, mobile IDs, all of this data that you can associate to that same group of 50,000 people. You can see we took the match rate, or Google's ability to find these people, all the way up to 100%. So now there's the potential to serve them the ads, that 50,000, there's the possibility. Once you run your campaign, you'll notice that down there with the impressions, you're able to increase the number of impressions by 5x. So while they increase the match rate of finding the folks by 3, the population of inventory available to put ads in front of that group went up by 5 times. And what's most powerful is because these ads are being served across multiple digital touch points where people engage, we drove 10 times the number of clicks or engagement. And so what you'll see is that you can truly unlock your media spend, because you don't want to spend those dollars targeting the wrong people or putting ads in front of not the marketing person you want to reach. And so by associating this consumer linkage of the site through identity technology, it is just a game changer for B2B marketers, means that it allows you to truly unlock the ability to reach. So that's really a really interesting use of identity within the B2B use case. And when we're talking about a niche segment that is specifically defined around a business audience. With that, I'm going to, John, bring it back to you. And we've covered a lot here today in terms of identity technology, sort of how it helps power digital advertising, how you can take through identity, associate it to specific characteristics that define a niche audience in our perspective or your perspective, a niche audience from commerce activity through loyalty cards, POS system, in-store purchases. That's really the holy grail. What do people want based on what they buy, and how do I now reach those people? And then how we take that fully into even a B2B use case. Lots of powerful things you can do with identity to really create niche audiences, and most importantly, activate them at scale and ultimately drive the ROI. And it's working very well. I think we'd love to turn back to you to see what additional thoughts you might have based on your experience, but we certainly enjoyed some great success in combining these capabilities together.
We definitely have, and we continue to look forward to working this through the rest of this year and going forward as B2B2C become very more relevant within the marketplace. And as we're dealing with the changes within privacy concerns on a state-by-state basis right now, it's very important that we have this type of data that's available, that's always privacy concentric as well. And as well as being able to target down to that granular level, so that when it comes to measurement for the ad campaigns and the return on ad spend, it's always able to be calculated properly. And this is what we're looking forward to bringing to the market and being able to expand and grow from here.
Okay, Michelle, I think we finished a little early today. I think we kind of flew through that. Maybe it's because our videos were on screen and we weren't feeling the pressure of cameras or something of that nature. But hopefully we got some interesting questions maybe from the audience today, and love to turn it back to you to dive right in, and we'll answer some of those, and then
yeah,
a little bit of the time back.
Yep, you guys were quite efficient. That's great. Never a bad thing. But thanks, Chris and Geron, both. We have had some questions coming through. So I will go ahead and get started on those. I'm going to start filtering through. Just 1 second here. All right. So we have a question about how often data within kind of the identity graph industry, or Versium or KDI specifically, how often is the data updated or refreshed?
On average.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, John. Why don't you take that first, and then go ahead.
Okay. On the B2C side, on average, is daily and weekly, depending on which category.
Yeah, and I think that's what's so powerful about having data that's captured in real time for purchase activities, because purchases are happening all the time. And so from our perspective, we also, from the identity data perspective that can be mapped to that purchase data, we also do our identity mapping in real time, because we're bringing in data daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, depending on the nature of the data. Sometimes the demographic data is only updated quarterly. It doesn't necessarily change that often, but we're always adding additional contact points on a daily basis. So we're always able to then bring in the latest contact points. And people change emails, they change phone numbers, they get different phones and mobile IDs swap, they move. So by always doing that identity mapping in real time, which is one of the powerful aspects of our platform, we're always able to use the freshest data. So if you got the freshest purchase data coming in from a unique proprietary source like the commerce world, you want to be able to associate to the freshest, most recent contact data, so that you're making sure to put digital ads in front of real people, in front of you extend your reach, because you get the more data, again, more contact points, more reach. So great question.
Great, thank you both. Another question here. What sources does Versium gather their data from?
Well, from our perspective, I mean, there's a great partner here, which is where we work with a unique source of data that's proprietary to them. I wouldn't say that is data we necessarily bring in. We don't own or license that data, but we work very closely because of its unique and uniqueness and power. But our data that we associated comes from many sources. Some of it comes from the public domain. There's a lot of contact data out there. There's government sources. There's commercial sources. When people, there's a lot of data capture that happens in the digital world, whether you're going to a Jiffy Lube and getting your oil changed, you're supplying contact data, emails, and there's a lot of environments where consented use of the consumer is obtained both online and offline. And we work with a number of folks who pull that data together and acquire it commercially. That we also use tools to pull data that's down in the public domain. And then there's some unique and powerful government sources as well. And it's a little different depending on whether you're talking about the actual contact data, the identity data, or whether you're talking about more of the insights data, the demographics and things like that. So it's many, many sources across multiple means. And in every case, we're ensuring consumer consent. We're ensuring privacy compliance in terms of not transferring sensitive information or contact data. It's all hashed and encrypted. In fact, we're just launching a new tool that will allow people for no cost to encrypt their emails or hash their emails, so that they can, instead of uploading a raw email, which you can into Facebook and Google, you can encrypt it first and make sure none of your first party data is exposed in any way. So lots of sources and lots of important things to consider around data.
Great, thank you, Chris. All right, so we have a question here. Is the solution for first party data only, or can I build out data sets?
That's a good question. And Geron, I think what was being asked, and I'll pose it back to you first, is if first party data to me would be maybe the actual retailer that's capturing the in-store purchase activity, and that would, if they want to activate those digital audiences, they surely can. But I also think we're talking about other parties that want to target people with those characteristics. And how would you kind of view that question?
Well, the answer is overall is yes, if it falls within our niche of the essential retail markets. What becomes important is the different categories, as well as the depth that you want to reach them at. It's very important that we always keep that in mind, and making sure that that depth that you want to reach them at, we stay within a privacy concentric way. And so as long as we're doing that with that first party or second party data, we can definitely implement new data sets there and audience segments.
Yeah. And I think when we look at, okay, here is a digital audience of folks who have a certain purchase propensity, maybe it's they're very health conscious. And so they're looking at, buying at Whole Foods, or they're looking at organic purchases, as a segment. And we keep kind of thinking about what are some of the segments that can be created within the commerce world. Well, now you have this audience. Third parties can definitely activate those audiences or reach those people by targeting. And when we construct a digital audience, it really applies to both first party and other folks that want to leverage those insights and characteristics to reach those people. As you put these audiences in different environments for purchase, it allows other folks to obtain that targeting. And that's really, what we're doing here. So.
Great, thank you. All right, so another question just came through here. Can Versium or KDI handle hashed information? Are there specific input requirements for first-party data?
Well, correct. I believe, Geron, you guys only exclusively pass mostly hashed data over, correct? I mean, I think that's mostly how we operate. I mean, we can handle either way in our world. If you want to take an input data and get additional contact points, and meaning a single email, or think of it at scale, 100,000, a million emails, addresses, phone numbers, mobile IDs. If you want to apply and get additional contact points, or if you want to get additional insights like demographics, our system that does all these things we talked about today can handle a hashed input. Sometimes you don't get the same volume of data out, because often if there's errors, we'll do some pre-processing. We can't always do the same amount of pre-processing, but it's almost exactly the same level of data back. So we can handle completely as an input, hashed data to do all these things. And that really speaks to maintaining integrity around privacy compliance. Anything to add to that, Geron, or is that's from your view?
Well, no, that was very good there, Chris. For KDI, we do work with first as well as second party data, and the hashed inputs we can work with. The basis though of the targeting for your audience segment, those are things that can be worked out and worked with.
Great. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Geron. Okay, so another one here for you. Many retailers highly value their first-party data, and they focus their marketing to those customers. But how can they identify and target potential new customers?
Well, through customer acquisition, that's always the biggest thing that's one of the bigger things that retailers are constantly doing. You're trying to acquire new customers as well from your top competitors and things of that nature. So by working and leveraging first and second party data, that usually allows that to happen a lot better, because now you're starting to deal with issues of improving the customer journey after you've identified those that you're targeting, and then being able to actually provide them a great shopping experience. And so things like this here is what we actually do with when we're dealing with brands, as well as the retailers around retail media, as well as the payment media side.
Yeah, and I would add two things to that. In working with some of our journeys and working with large retailers, the question is how do you've got your existing first party data, existing customers, people are buying in your store. First thing is to understand the characteristics of those people, their demographic profile, maybe their location, how far away are they shopping from your store. So once you build a profile through data enrichment, and that's one of the things we do is we provide this rich demographics and the rest. Now you can start identifying what is the key characteristics of your best customers. What is your ideal customer profile? What is their demographic profile? Where do they live? Do they own a house? Do they rent? There's literally 500 different characteristics we can associate to an individual household. And now you can start looking for people that have the same characteristics. How do you find more of the folks? And whether you're just then generating an audience, there are tools that allow you to build a list of people. Generate me a list of everyone in California that has these particular characteristics. There are services that will allow you to build an audience of folks who have those exact characteristics as your best customers based upon what you've learned by doing demographic data enrichment. Now you can market to a whole new set of people and you can dedupe that from your existing list of customers. So you're not marketing to your existing folks, you're marketing to people within a certain geography that have the exact same characteristics of your best customers. And now you're really tuning your audience targeting towards the folks most likely to come in and become your best customers. So that's the first thing. The second thing I would add, which is a level of sophistication, maybe even above that, where you're using AI or machine learning models, lookalike models that let the computer look at those demographic and other statistical data about folks and score them versus you saying, hey, I want to find a person with a certain persona. Oh, market to that one. I want to create a new persona. This are people who own a house who are over 50 who like to buy wine. Okay, that's one persona based upon specific demographics. Here's another one. Here's people under 35 who like to drink a lot of wine and who are in a social environment. That's a different persona, same motivation. They have a characteristics to purchase. But there's still 6 or 8, 9 attributes which the mind can get around in defining a persona. What ML and AI model does is looks at hundreds, if not thousands of attributes, and then boils it into a propensity score of likelihood to purchase wine. And now you just say, I want everyone with a really high score, and I'm going to market to them. Oh, and by the way, before I market to them, I'm then going to do a data enrichment and see which ones might get the creative associated to the younger person, which one has the characteristics of the older person, but they still have a very high propensity based upon a much greater volume of data. And now you're using the insights and intelligence of your in-store purchasing and your first-party data and identifying who's your best customers, and you're using powerful new technologies to drive your marketing for new customer acquisition. So those are the two ways I think of it from our perspective, to how do you leverage your first-party data to bring in more and new customers. It's a really great question, and people who do it right really get a much higher ROI with their marketing budgets.
That's great. Thank you both. That's the end of the questions that we had come through directly. So at this point, I think we can flip to contact information at the end there, Chris. Any additional questions come up, feel free to reach out to Chris, Geron, myself. All information is right here, sales@versium.com and sales@kda.media. Any questions at all, we'll be sending through the presentation and the recording. And so just look out for that. And again, thank you, Chris and Geron, for your time today. This was very educational. Have a great rest of your day.